Have you ever gone to buy a new gadget, something you've had your eye on for weeks, and suddenly the price is just higher? Well, today we're diving into the massive economic showdown that's actually hitting you right where it hurts, your wallet. This is Uncle Sam versus the Dragon.
So let's just start with that very real scenario. You've saved up, you're all set to finally buy that brand new laptop, but you get to the checkout and, whoa, the price has jumped. What in the world is going on?
You're not imagining things. That price hike is a direct ripple effect from a huge economic conflict playing out across the globe. And, well, you, the customer, are kind of caught right in the middle of it all.
Okay, so let's break this down. To really get what's happening, we first need to understand the basic rules of this game. How does a trade war actually work?
A trade war, it isn't fought on a battlefield with soldiers and tanks. No. The weapons here are all economic. We're talking about things like sanctions, playing with currency values, and the weapon we're going to be talking about a lot today, the tariff.
So, what exactly is a tariff? It sounds complicated, but at its heart, it's really just a tax. A country decides to slap this extra tax on products coming in from another country, and the whole point? To make those foreign goods more expensive on purpose.
Let me give you a super simple example. Picture a brand new phone, made in China, arriving in the US. Before it even makes it to the store, the US government adds a tariff, that extra tax. Boom! The price of that Chinese phone just went up. So now, when you're shopping, you look at the American-made phone sitting right next to it. Since it didn't get hit with that tax, it suddenly looks like a much better deal. And really, that's the whole strategy in a nutshell.
So, we know the weapon of choice. Now, let's get to the main event. The two major players in this economic showdown, the United States and, of course, China.
And that brings us to the big question, right? Of all the countries in the world, why China? What made the US aim its economic weapons so directly at the dragon?
This chart right here really gets to the heart of the American argument. Just look at these numbers. Every year, China sells a staggering $500 billion worth of stuff to the US. In return, the US only sells about $100 billion back. That massive gap is called a trade deficit, and for the US, it was seen as a huge problem, a sign that American jobs and industries were losing out. So the American strategy, in theory, was pretty straightforward. If we make Chinese goods more expensive with these tariffs, then American-made products will start to look a lot more appealing. The big hope was that this would get people to buy American, which would in turn help out US companies and hopefully create more jobs right here at home.
But, and this is a huge but, this isn't a one-sided fight. It would be a massive mistake to think China doesn't have its own economic arsenal. Because, oh boy, they've got some powerful cards of their own to play.
China's got some serious leverage. For one, they basically control the world's supply of rare earth metals. Those are essential for everything from your smartphone to high-tech military gear. They also hold a ton of US debt. They've got massive reserves of US dollars, and they have huge influence over critical supply chains, like the one for microchips. Each one of those is a major economic lever they can pull.
Let's just focus on one of those for a second. China owns over $1 trillion of US government debt. Just let that sink in. That is an enormous financial IOU, and it gives them a very unique kind of influence over the entire US economy. And here's another thing. While the US is a huge customer, it's not China's only customer. Not by a long shot. As you can see here, a full 85% of China's exports go to the rest of the world. That global customer base gives their economy a pretty strong buffer, which means they're not nearly as vulnerable to pressure from just the US alone. Now, this whole conflict didn't just happen in a bubble between two countries. The shock waves spread fast, and they ended up pulling in some of America's closest allies and neighbors.
Yeah, that's right. This tariff strategy wasn't only aimed at China. The US also hit two of its biggest trading partners with tariffs, its own next-door neighbors, Mexico and Canada.
And this is where things get really different. Unlike China, which sells its goods all over the world, Mexico and Canada are in a much tougher spot. A massive 80% of everything they export is sold to the United States. So for their economies, these tariffs weren't just a small problem. They were a direct, serious threat.
But none of these countries just sat back and took it. They all fought back. China hit back by targeting key American industries, like farming, and Canada did the same, slapping tariffs on over $20 billion worth of American products. All of a sudden, this wasn't a duel. It was a multi-front economic war.
So after all these global chess moves, these actions and reactions, let's bring it all the way back to where we started, the final bill and, who actually ends up paying it.
The truth is, this whole thing is still playing out. To this day, experts and economists are arguing over who's really winning, who's losing, and what the long-term damage is going to be. There is just no clear winner in sight.
But while the big picture is still fuzzy, one thing has become painfully clear for everyday people. The extra cost from these tariffs, it's getting passed down the line, and that means higher prices for all of us. You are right in the middle of this economic battle, whether you like it or not.
Which leaves us with one last, really important question to think about. As this economic war keeps going, who do you think will ultimately foot the biggest bill? Is it the massive corporations? Is it the governments making the rules? Or, at the end of the day, is it the average person just trying to get by?